Well, hello everyone. Today is a Wednesday, and if you watched yesterday's video, then you already know. And if you haven't watched it, maybe you should go back and watch that one, so this makes a little more sense. But basically, I'm in what I'm calling the depression tapes. Just kind of the unofficial title that I'm giving to these videos that I'm making these days. Quick recap, we arrived in Argentina about a week ago. Well, technically for today's video, exactly a week ago. And things haven't been going really well. Mostly just here in my head, but I seem to be going through a lull in my motivation and in my, motivation is the right word. I've just been feeling extremely depressed. And it's making it difficult. The whole point of this that we're trying to do is we're trying to become very healthy. And one of the ways that we're trying to become healthy is by eating better and hopefully losing weight. And so that has been tricky, and that has been a little more difficult for the last few days. And so that's what we're talking about. And so yesterday, Tuesday, was really tricky because, like I was mentioning in the last video, and again, this will make a lot more sense if you watch that one. I wasn't prepared. I wasn't prepared mentally. I wasn't prepared physically. I wasn't prepared emotionally to get out of my comfort zone, to step out of the bubble that I created for the first 9 weeks of trying to do this huge lifestyle change. And then stepping out of that comfort zone and getting here was extremely disruptive, much more than I anticipated. And it created a sense of hopelessness and desperation that was directly tied to the ambiguity and the uncertainty surrounding having stepped out of that bubble. The uncertainty wow, this is hard to say. The uncertainty that was created by me stepping out of that bubble, because I no longer had access to all the things that were giving me a sense of security and were removing ambiguity. So that's basically what we have been talking about. So I want to take this opportunity to touch on some other aspects that are very important when you're embarking on something as difficult and as life-changing as losing a massive amount of weight like I have, and perhaps some of you have done or are in the process of doing, which is, I would consider anywhere between like 100 and over to be that sort of life-changing. It's pretty life-changing, below that, so it's not like a specific number. I'm just, 100 is just a nice round number, and it's easy to go from there. So, Tuesday ended really badly, just mentally going to bed, dreading Wednesday morning and not really knowing what we were going to be doing or anything really. And so, Tuesday night, as I was feeling this way and starting to feel really hopeless and just really desperate, just this intense sadness, I decided that I wasn't going to try to do any kind of work or anything like that, or try to be productive in any way with work things or anything like that. And I sort of decided to take like a mental health day, but not just to lay around here and do nothing, which would have also worked. But I decided to basically going out and buying some things that could renew a sense of purpose or give me a small sense of security and direction. And I don't know if this sort of happens to you guys in any way. The clearest example that I have is because of my work. I'm an artist, and so sometimes if I'm really stuck in trying to do something, basically like if you're trying to write something or anything, or create a piece of art or anything like that, sometimes staring at a blank page or a blank project or whatever it is very difficult. And then sometimes you just step out, and even if it's just a walk or watching a movie or listening to something or reading something, the process of sort of disengaging your mind from the thing that you're trying to accomplish and going and doing something else usually sparks something. And it might be completely unrelated to the thing that you were watching or reading or anything like that, but just the idea of, or the act of going and disengaging your brain from this one thing and doing something else, it'll trigger something. And then all of a sudden, it's like you have a lifeline. You know, like, okay, I can go in this direction. My girlfriend has a very interesting way she puts it. It's like when you have like a little thread and like you grab it and you pull it and the whole thing starts unraveling. That's what she calls it, you know, pulling on the thread. So you get a little thread that you can pull from, and all of a sudden this thing that seemed impossible starts sort of opening up to you and unraveling in front of your eyes, and it just sort of creates this momentum to keep going. And so in a way, to try to step out from this, you know, this sort of negative space that I was in the apartment. Like Tuesday, I didn't even leave the apartment, and so you know, and there was all this negativity, and I was really trying to force myself to do the work and to do these things and all that. I said, okay, Wednesday we're not going to do any of that because it's just making us miserable. And so one of the things that I had been relying on, as you guys know if you've watched some of the videos from when I was back in the U.S., I bought these curries from Huel that were, you know, nutritionally complete and all that, but they were prepared meals that, you know, even though I wasn't eating them as they're supposed to be eaten, because you're supposed to just add water, heat up, and eat, I was adding more things to make them a little more palatable and also to fill out the macro profile of these meals. But the basis was there. The base of the meal was already there. And so I thought to myself, for some reason, like the only little thread that I could see that I could pull from was Buenos Aires has like a Chinatown. And I thought, because I keep thinking Barrio Chino, which is what they call it here. I was like, what the fuck would we call it in English? Chinatown. And so there's a whole Chinatown in the north part of the city. And I thought, you know what? Let me go over there and walk around some of the grocery stores and walk around the aisles and see if that can like trigger something for me. And I knew that, you know, like maybe I'll find some like curry paste, or I'll find, you know, like something that I could find in order to make this happen. And so, you know, to sort of give us a renewed sense of something. So breakfast ended up being sort of the default that's been the last few days. 3 eggs, and this time we only had 1 arepa left, and so we split it, and we each had half. So, but that was basically the default, or that has been. And with that, that's it. We went off to the Chinatown, and I was a little overwhelmed. Yesterday was still a very difficult day. Lots of ups and downs. There were moments of like, oh, I don't feel so bad, punctuated with moments of complete terror and complete desolation. I don't even know what else to call it. I know it sounds really dramatic and extreme, but it really, if you have ever struggled with depression and you have some, or you know, some anxiety as well, they usually come together, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And it's a fucking roller coaster of emotions in a single day. And you can go from being like, oh, this is not so bad, and sometimes even going as far as being a little more euphoric, to just a complete desperation and sadness. And yeah, it sucks. So we went to the Chinatown. We walked around all the different grocery stores, and even though there were lots of ups and downs, overall, you know, just now looking back, it was the right call to not try to force anything here and not try to force what I was trying to do, but just sort of completely change the environment like we talked about earlier and see if it would show us a thread that we can pull from. before we move on to the rest of the day and kind of walk you through everything else that I did and how the rest of the day unfolded, something that I wanted to touch on is that a certain level of being overwhelmed and being sad, and depending on the circumstances, a certain level of depression is normal, and it happens to everybody. There are some of us who do have a more medical condition, and it really, if you at all, if this stuff that I'm talking about, all these things that I'm telling you, and this experience, some of my experiences that I'm sharing, are resonating with you, maybe it's worth talking to a mental health professional, because, like I said, some of that is very normal, and it happens to everybody. When there is a sense of overwhelm like that, that deep sadness that lasts for a while, and there's not a real reason for it, I guess, in a way. Because I don't know, like if your dog died, yeah, sure, like you're going to be depressed, or a family member is injured, or like anything like that, or you lost your job. Those things warrant someone to be, affected by it. But when it happens to this way that it happens to me, when there isn't a specific thing, but yet you're still miserable, and to that degree, maybe there's something else there. Maybe it's a medical condition. And so I have had chronic depressive syndrome for a long time, been diagnosed. And so I am on medication. I do take antidepressants. And so that might be something that is worth talking about with your doctor. And maybe they can do it themselves. I know that in the U.S., some internists or some general practitioners can prescribe some antidepressants, but maybe talking to a psychiatrist or a psychologist is not a bad idea. So just something that I wanted to, and if it's something that you guys are interested in, we can talk about it a little more, mental health and medication and stuff like that when it comes to this whole approach, because again, the weight loss is the visible aspect of it, but we're trying to become healthier, and not just physically, but mentally. And that's the whole purpose of us being here and doing this. The weight loss is just a more visible aspect of it. So that's just something that I wanted to touch on, because it might be something worth exploring if you haven't already, and some of these things that I'm saying resonate with you. And I know that for me, not being medicated kept me from having a healthier lifestyle, because my mental health was so bad. And so that might also be something worth looking into that a lot of people might not be aware of, and that certainly a lot of the experts when it comes to like weight loss and fitness and stuff like that maybe don't really touch on, because it's not easy. It's not an easy sell. Dealing with mental health issues is a motherfucker, and it's if you want to sell a course or like a weight loss anything, or it's not an easy sell. It's not sexy, and it's very poorly understood. We still don't know really much about the head, and yeah, we've made advances, but the brain it's still very it's not understood very well, and so. It's something that you might want to pay attention to, because for some of us, it might be one of the things keeping us from being able to have a better quality of life, and having the motivation and the drive and the mental health to be able to pursue a physical transformation of this magnitude. So that's something to consider. But anyway, so we got there, we walked the aisles for a little while, and, little by little I started getting ideas, and I could see, oh, we could do this, oh, we could do that. But we still needed to figure out, what we were going to do in terms of food, and it was lunchtime, we were getting hungry, we were walking around for a little while, and it was just time to eat. And so what we ended up doing was finding another one of these sort of food by weight places, and seeing if we could do something that was maybe slightly healthier. than if we just gone into one of the Chinese restaurants in the Chinatown. And so this is what I went for. Again, there was another like a sauteed chicken with vegetables, and there was this was supposed to be like a sweet and sour chicken kind of thing. That wasn't that great. Luckily, I didn't get that much. There was some like fried rice underneath, and again, this was sort of the compromise that I made. Like, okay, this way I get to have a little more protein, a little more vegetables, and maybe minimize the amount of rice. Then, I go into one of the Chinese restaurants, I'm probably going to get like a fried rice or a lo mein or something like that. It's going to be a lot of carbs and very little protein. So this way, I got to choose the amounts, and I also got a little bit of potatoes. So it was like a weird mix, but yeah, not horrible. But again, for the state of mind that I was in, honestly, this is such a win for me because I would have totally gone for like a burger or, fries or, something like that. And so I consider this a win. So then we started walking around and little by little started getting ideas. And just this act of walking around and, through the grocery store and finding little things that could give me ideas. Oh, I could use this to cook this. Oh, I could use this to cook that. It really, really helped. I mean, like it really helped. And so my mood still was tricky throughout most of the day. Even today, it continues to be. I feel up and down, and like I'm mostly okay today. Now this video is Wednesday, and technically it's tomorrow. But and I'm still feeling these ups and downs. They have these moments of like they're like mini panic attacks. Oh, I'm okay. That are still happening, but I think that I am feeling much better today because I was able to do that yesterday. And it gave me sort of like a renewed sense of purpose, if you will. So let me actually go downstairs. Let's go to the kitchen, and I'll show you some of the stuff that I bought. Because I ended up making dinner last night, which, just if you guys know, if you felt like this before, getting yourself to do anything in that state of mind is already extremely difficult, let alone having made dinner really just helped. So let me go downstairs, show you some of those things, and then we'll talk about dinner. And here they are. These are some of the things that I bought. I believe this is everything. I might be missing something, but these were the things that I was able to find that sort of gave me an idea of like, okay, we can do something else. Something interesting that I found was ghee. I hadn't seen ghee in Latin America before this, and it's funny because it's called la vaca yogi, the yogi cow. But ghee, so if you don't know what ghee is, it's basically clarified butter. So it's taking butter and burning off all the lactose, and it's basically pure milk fat. And it's a very stable fat that we can use for cooking, and it is absolutely delicious. I also got some fish sauce. And fish sauce is something that I used to use a lot back when I lived in California. It's a little salty, so you got to watch out for the sodium and stuff. But just as far as like making things taste good, and also because like I was telling you, I had this idea of curry in my head, the Thai curries and these meals that I was relying on before, and so I sort of started thinking like, how could I recreate some of these meals? And this is one of them because fish sauce basically goes in a lot of Asian food, and it's what makes it so damn delicious. This one we got some in the States as well, oyster sauce. This one is more carby than anything because it's basically sugar, but again, I wanted to add some flavor. I got some sriracha. Very nice to be able to find sriracha here. I got some sardines. I do like sardines. This one, dry mushrooms. And again, I'm thinking about like how are we gonna make these things and try to give them, enough flavor and all of that stuff. And so, mushrooms are surprisingly expensive here. And this was maybe not that bad, but I believe this was like $6, like $6 American. Feels pricey to me, but. And then I got some. This is sesame oil. And again, just delicious flavor in Asian cuisine. I bought some curry powder and some smoked paprika. And then I found these plain noodles. So basically, like to make the ramen, like the instant ramen, but they come, in like these packages. And so, again, not the healthiest, but it's a step in the right direction, especially if we're cooking it ourselves. And then, like if there was something else that I bought, not really. I believe that's most of it. There were a couple things that I got also that were interesting. I bought this. I don't know if you guys know what this is, but this is my absolute most favorite drink in the entire world, Schafferhofer. A friend of mine in Germany introduced me to it a few years ago, and it's basically a German wheat beer with grapefruit juice, and it is so good. And then I also found these little trays of vegetables that are already and so we got a couple of those. And I bought some mayo just to have, and I believe that is it. The other thing, yeah, I was forgetting. These are pork bones, and I'm going to use these pork bones to try to make tonkatsu broth for ramen. Since I was in this sort of Asian kick, I figured that we could make our own. There are some ramen places here in Buenos Aires. This feels weird. Actually, let me go upstairs and we'll do this there. I got the idea to buy some pork bones and make tonkatsu broth, since I'm in this sort of Asian kick to try to revitalize my efforts to, be a little more health conscious. And so I bought some of those bones, and I'm hoping tomorrow, because it's a very lengthy process to make tonkatsu broth, but I'm hoping that tomorrow we'll do it. And so, yeah, that was it. Those were the things that I bought. And I can't, just that simple act of going out and doing something like that gave me a chance to, again, like my girlfriend says, to find a little thread that I can pull from and things would sort of like open up. And I know I don't know if that metaphor is right because like you're unraveling, it's like it's coming undone. But I don't see it as it coming undone, but you pull from it and it unravels and it reveals what you were trying to get to that you couldn't figure out. And so that's sort of how that analogy should be taken. And that's what I did. And so I got home and I was able to, I also bought some rice, some different types of rice. And I forgot to show you guys, when we cook them, you'll see them. But there was a little leftover rice and there was some leftover steak. And so I took some of the vegetables from those vegetable trays that we bought and used some of my goodies, some of the fish sauce, some of the sesame oil, and made like an Asian sauté thing with a little bit of the leftover rice, and this is what it looks like. So we had, the vegetables was like carrot and zucchini and peppers and onions and a little bit of mushrooms. Didn't have much mushrooms. Again, mushrooms are expensive here. And a little bit of leftover rice and some of that beef that I had. And that we had in the fridge, and yeah, this came together. And again, I didn't measure anything. I'm not exactly sure if I was good or bad on my macros or calories. Like, I wasn't counting anything, but that is as much as I could do so that I wouldn't break, you know. And so it seemed like a fair compromise. Because I remember at the beginning of this, a lot of people were saying like, oh, you're doing too much, you're overcomplicating things. And in that moment, I needed to overcomplicate things. That's what I needed in order to do this. But in this moment, I needed to not overcomplicate things, because in this particular moment, the overcomplication of things was going to be more damaging. And so, or not, I don't know if damaging is the right word, but yeah, let's just leave it at that. And so, it's interesting, and I remember like when people were giving me shit for it at the beginning, it wasn't much on, you know, everybody is very supportive. Just a few people who were getting a little annoyed at how much I was doing and how much I was measuring and all of that stuff. In that moment, I just needed to do that. It just, that was what my brain needed to wrap itself around the idea of doing this. And then like yesterday and these days, it's a completely different approach. And so it just highlights, well, first of all, that everybody's different, and everybody's has a different approach on how they can make it work for themselves. But even within a single person, depending on where you happen to be, different approaches are necessary. And so I've had that approach in the US where it was very, very specific, and I was doing a lot of stuff. And I'm having a different approach now that I'm here, and I'm trying to figure out how to make it work for myself. And so it's very important to keep that in mind. There isn't a single approach for everyone, and there even isn't a single approach for a single person. And so that's something that we just have to keep in mind, and I have to keep reminding myself that there's no right or wrong way to do this. It's, you know, as long as we continue making progress, as long as we stay focused on what our North Star is, what our why is, the reason why we're doing this, and we're making progress towards that, anything goes. And so that is it. Thank you so much, guys, for hanging in there. It really, I'm trying to figure out the right balance to bring you, to share the journey, all the ups, all the downs, and you know, I'm still trying to figure this out. So thank you so much, guys, for hanging with me. I really hope that this was helpful for some of you, hopefully for a lot of you, who might be feeling a certain way and, you know, might be full of doubt the same way that I have been for the last few days, because I've certainly felt like, what am I doing? You know, and having those moments of panic, and am I doing this right? Can I do this? You know, just being filled with so much doubt and so much uncertainty that it can be completely destructive. And so hopefully being able to hear someone else struggling with the same things is something that might help your own struggles, if you will. At least for me, whenever I've been feeling really bad about something, when I've had, you know, some of my episodes, knowing that there are other people who feel like me help. They just help feel that we're not as alone, especially in a process as difficult as this one. So thank you guys again. I hope that I'm able to give something back to this community that is giving me so much, and I really appreciate you. So thank you so much. We're going to leave it at that for today, and yeah, I'll see you tomorrow.